Today, we're going to put this grinding belt on this band file, or my name isn't. So we were driving home the other night, my wife and I, car full of groceries, when she turned to me and asked if I was ready to talk about that grinding belts thing. I wasn't, but now I think I am. So today, let's talk about that bond that keeps us together. Sorry, my apologies. I meant that bond that keeps our grinding belts together. Is it just me, or is every new tool we get just the best tool we've ever owned and can no longer live without? Well, I recently got the M12 band file, and I'm shooting you straight here. If you were to take this away from me right now, I would die. Someday. Just so we're clear, and for the record, I said someday, not Sunday. If you're not familiar with what a band file is, that's totally fine. Maybe the planet you're from isn't as technologically advanced. I'm not judging, but allow me to blow your collective mind. This is a belt grinder, just like this one. That's so small, heck, you could take this to church with you. And you know, it does exactly what it says on the box. But don't let the size fool you. This is packing unbelievable power. And by unbelievable, I mean not that much. If it had a little more, I wouldn't be upset, let's put it that way. But as it turns out, if you get the right belt on this thing and you let it do the work, it can move a surprising amount of material. Granted, it's no angle grinder, but often it can be the least wrong tool for the job. Now, I don't want to come across as having grown up with a silver spoon up my butt, but this ain't my first band file. It's my second. My first is this Cadillac Dynabrade. I saw a welder using one of these when I was just a snot-nosed, impressionable kid. Saved up my paper route money and bought this wallered out one. They probably saw me coming a mile away. This doesn't have the power a new one has, or the power it had when it was new. Though I think you can rebuild these air motors for maybe not that much money, but this thing has served me well. However, this has come with some emotional baggage, and why we're all here today. Not only were these tools expensive, but the belts were exorbitant. Or at least that's my ingrained memory anyway. Maybe they were $8 each? I don't remember. Mind you, that's $8 years ago money. I'm getting sidetracked, dang. Moral of the story, as handy as this was to use, I was always very conscious of the cost of consumables. Today, that's not an issue. These belts are maybe $3 for the good ones, 30 cents for import quality. I'm making those numbers up, but ballpark. Belts have always just seemed expensive, even for the big belt grinder. Like the 2x72s, if you've wondered why custom knives cost $500, it's because the knife maker went through like 2 of these to make it, and they're bitter about it. Rightly so, too. And no, I don't usually keep my belts wrapped up like drug money. Not that I know, but they were just too hard to control and film otherwise. Somewhere along my journey, I thought I got smarter and started buying surplus or like new old stock grinding belts. Sometimes even boxes of used belts. If the size was close and the price was right, they were mine. I even stumbled across a gold mine box of Dynabrade size belts, and now I'm swimming in these like Scrooge McDuck. They're all the same grit, but still. This, by the way, uses 3/4 inch by 18. The Milwaukee uses 1/2 inch by 18. This big belt grinder uses 2-inch wide by 72-inch long belts. And they cost a lot more, of course, but they're so long they tend to run cooler. There's just more belt. And lifetime of this belt scales better with price. One of these, a good quality belt, lasts a decent amount of time. At least here it does. The smaller belts, no matter how good they are, you'll just chew through them faster. It's just the way the world works. Science or something, I don't know. Belts, by the way, can be cut to width. I often look for these wider belts, which seem to be more popular at my getting spots than the 2-inch belts are. But as long as they're close to the right length, cutting them to width isn't really a problem. When I designed my 2x72 grinder, I accommodated for, I think, 36-inch belts up to 80-something inches. so I wouldn't be stuck with just 72-inch belts. Anyway, for anyone who might not know, to cut a belt down, you simply cut the joint at the width you need and slowly rip it. These are continuous wound or continuous fiber through the entire length. They're kind of like helix wound. So they'll rip pretty clean until you get to the end, where you'll always end up with a little offset, but I just clipped that off. There we go, a new belt for the 2x72. Same goes for the Milwaukee, or the little belts. So I find the seam, 1/2 inch, and when I cut right through that taped joint, that bonded joint. Once you're in there, the knife usually follows the fibers. These little things are tougher than they look. And again, when you get to the end, that's the fiber crossing from this coil into this coil. There we go, 1/2 inch belt. But here comes the plot twist. As it turns out, grinding belts, well, they can expire, like milk going bad. On all the old ones I've amassed, sooner or later, the glue joint fails. Not all of them, but odds are pretty good. If I put this one I just cut on the grinder and I'm, working it, moving some material, sooner or later, the joint will fail. The tape or the adhesive or whatever. And catastrophically, I might add. Well before the belt has been worn out. And when that happens, instant timeout to go find a fresh pair of skivvies. Now, you think I'd be bummed about this. And, I am a little. But after they explode, like this one, I just hang them on the peg next to the lathe and cut pieces off to use there. So they're not totally lost. No abrasive left behind in this garage. Except maybe for the abrasive that makes it down into the machine ways. And maybe the living room carpet. Okay, hold the boat. I don't know which one of you is the captain, but hold the boat. I bought flexible epoxy, but nowhere on this thing does it say flexible. Easy as 1, 2, 3, I'm good with that. Fix your things, 100% on board. I'm no botanist, but that seems like an important omission. I just checked the listing, and the packaging does seem a little different, though it also does not appear to say flexible, other than in the title. What's that, a picture of a tire? Are they fixing the sidewall of a tire? Yeah, most of this is Spanish to me. Check that out. Lap shear tensile, 1700 PSI. That seems pretty good, I guess. 1700's a big number anyway. Apart from the obvious cry for help, and the general want to spend some time with you fine folks, shooting the proverbial poop every now and again, I thought we could try to make our own grinding belts. Fix this one for kicks, and try to make some of my own for my new belt file. And truth be told, this isn't the first time I've tried this. Historically, making my own belts has never worked. There was a stretch, probably a decade ago now, where I tried everything from boiled horses to hand stitching. Nothing ever lasted for more than 10 seconds. With the new band file, and time having healed all wounds, of course, I thought maybe advances in adhesives these days, i.e. the future, well, maybe I'd have a better shot. I even went to the trouble of contacting a few of the big adhesive brands. Hey, if you don't want to talk, maybe don't put a phone number on your website. Actually, they were all pretty cool. Initially, they all answered the phone, and I spoke with a real person, so kudos for that. But the tone changed as soon as I said grinding belts out loud. Like it got real awkward. Super inquisitive up until that point. As soon as I said grinding belts, they'd have to look into it and they'd call me back, and then they ghosted me. Something fishy is going on here, and right under our noses. I can smell it. It's epoxy, for crying out. According to my YouTube statistics, 2.5 of you are investigative journalists. All I'm saying is someone ought to blow the lid off this thing. So I went online and just bought the first flexible epoxy that had like the best reviews. Figured it's got to be better than anything I tried 15 years ago. So I want to make a lap joint. This used some kind of fiber tape or reinforced tape, and they just did a butt joint, but end to end, that's probably not a lot of surface area for my epoxy. So I'm going to mark this and maybe take some of the abrasive off, try to leave some of that backer. and see what happens. I don't know how well this is going to work. I may just resort to the angle grinder. I've blocked it up here in my vise. That's the same line we marked out on the bench with the pencil. It's easier to work here, and this gives me a bit of a guide. Maybe. This file's got a safe side on it. Let's see if we can get some of that off. Sort of thin this out. It's kind of working. If you're wondering, yes, filing my sandpaper is a little awkward. I think I can see the backing through the middle there. Do I have a coarser file? Got this raspish kind of thing. And that abrasive is on there. I'm going to play around with this a bit, see how far down I can get it, and then I'll see you back at the bench. Let me get you caught up. Here's what I got going on. Hopefully you can see that from where you're standing. I got a nice, clean, crisp step between mostly the backing and the abrasive. What ended up doing the trick was one of these carbide scrapers. One edge used to be really sharp, and it did a great job of just bulldozing that abrasive right off of there. And then just a little more file work to get a nice clean line. And I'm hanging over the corner of my bench here, just, so I can manage this loop of stuff. I plan to just glue it and clamp it. I also prepped some shorter belts. These would be for the band file. Same thing, took a little bit off the abrasive side and just scratched off some of the backing just so I'm minimizing the thickness of that lap joint. I mean, I'm not exactly there, but at least I'm not double thickness. Let's put it that way. I've got 3, maybe 4 of these with different size laps. Some are prepped, so it's like an 1/8 inch lap joint, 1/4 inch lap joint, and 3/8 inch lap joint. These might actually be a little bit tricky. I mean, I'm not sure how flexible this epoxy really is, but this has a much smaller bend radius than my belt grinder. So I'm going to be asking a lot more of the adhesive on this thing than I am on the bigger grinder. So this thing only came with 2 tips, 2 mixing tips. And I think it's got a 5-minute working time. Did I just break this? Okay, I think I'm good. I'm going to assume that's adequately mixed. And now I'm just going to make a mess on the belt. Some paper on the back side of this joint might have been smart. Hopefully I don't bond to that aluminum block. It does say it bonds everything. 1 down, maybe? Now I got to figure out how to fixture these other ones. I'm not sure if this will work. I'm up against the clock here. I assume 8 minutes means the mixing tube too. I hate when the components are the same colors. There's always one that's a lot denser than the other, and it always feels like I'm pushing the easy one out first without any of the thicker stuff. There's one maybe. I should have probably picked a softer belt. Though these older ones from the 60s or whenever they're from tend to be a lot more bomb-proof, or were, I guess, when they were new. I bet like a clothespin would have been smart here. Like if you compare it to this belt, this is a modern belt, worn out, but it's more of a cloth backing. This one's more like shoe leather. That's already starting to thicken up on me. Yeah, it's thicker. Now we wait. I think I'm going to leave these go overnight just to be sure, and we'll try them. I'm going to have some trouble sleeping this evening. See you folks. Well, I'll be the son of a monkey's uncle. This really is flexible epoxy. What will they think of next? There is a bit of squeeze out. I'm not too worried about it on the front. I think that'd get bulldozed off pretty fast. This thing in the back though, where'd you guys put my nut? That's gonna end up being a lump that just causes problems every time it comes around. I think I can clean that up. Show some promise. Let's see how these little ones are doing. Pay no mind to the new bling, by the way. The oven stopped working probably about a month ago. Given the symptoms, I was pretty sure it was the thermostat. 65% sure anyway. Last night, me and the kids replaced it. You know what? I could probably just leave this tape on the back. You know, we had to take half the dang oven apart to get to where the little temperature probe thing slips in. Turns out there is a lot of sharp sheet metal in an oven. Oven works fine now, by the way. But at what cost? I guess blue tape doesn't really have a reputation for sticking. It looks pretty good. A little bit of a thick spot. I'm not as worried about it on the band file. Anyway, I don't think I need you sitting here watching me opening Christmas presents. I think the next step is to mount this on the belt grinder and just... I built this belt grinder myself, like my own plans. I'd say I'm happy with it. But when I was building it, like I had the plans printed out, and when I was building it, I sort of read them. I don't know. I built the mirror version of the stand, the central stand, and ended up with the whole drive system on the wrong side. So my adjustment knob is on the inside instead of where it should be out here on the outside. Not the end of the world, but sometimes I don't like reaching through belts, even though the machine is off, obviously. And there's the adjustment I was talking about. I mean, I think they all do this. Maybe this one has a little bit more than others. I'm not sure. Now I'm going to mount this so I'm working with the lap joint. The belt travels this way. I want to grind along like with that lap joint and not against it so nothing can grab onto it and tear this thing apart. Let's start off slow here. Pardon me just a second while I stand out of the way. I want to make sure it tracks right. Well, it didn't immediately break. I'll count that as a good first sign. It does run pretty lumpy though. I'm sure you can hear that. And it bucks a little. I guess let's just give her and see what happens. Full speed. Holy crap. And that's what happened. Give me just a minute. Gotta go find some new underpants. See you back at the... Now you're up to speed. That pretty much sums up my experience with trying to build my own grinding belts. By the looks of this, I bet if I dug around the floor or somewhere up on the ceiling, there's probably a puck of dried adhesive stuck up there somewhere. I don't see very much left of it on here anywhere. I mean, it's sort of filled in all of the fabric, I think. That's smoother than I left it. I don't know. Pardon me, I don't know. I had higher hopes, let's put it that way. Guess it's back to the lathe for this sandpaper. I wonder if we'll have any better luck with these. Again, I'm a little more skeptical here just because this bend radius is so much tighter. But, I don't know, maybe the forces are lower? Smaller belt and all that? I can't really set the tension on this. It's sort of factory built in, I think. I don't even know if I could adjust the tracking on this. Nice. I don't get it. The epoxy is just like gone. Did I squeeze it all out? Maybe it needs some kind of minimum gap that I can't have in a band file application. Let's try another one. I don't remember which one this was. That looks like a 1/4 inch overlap. It's definitely more. Which way does this thing run? I wonder if I installed it backwards and caught the leading edge of that lap. Second time's a charm, right? Is it the third time that's a charm? All right, awesome. So our little experiment here was a complete and utter failure. It arguably couldn't have been worse. I'll give you that. Am I ashamed to call myself a husband to my wife and a father to my children? A little bit. I'm not saying we don't have a long road of healing in front of us. For now, though, let's concentrate on the positives, on what we learned. And what we learned is to just buy the belts we need. Now, will this help us in a probable apocalypse type situation? No. But I got these at like 50 cents a piece. So there's that to consider. 36 belts, probably not the best quality, sure, for about 20 bucks. And for anyone curious, they all seem to be taped. This is marketed as, what did it say? Oh, there's more. The value never ends. Replacement sharpening belt kit. So it's for one of those, I guess, one of those little electric knife sharpeners, which probably means a good 1/4 or a half of these are probably completely useless 6, 8, and 10,000 grit belts. What can I say? Curiosity got the best of me. I'd like to give them a try. That's 400, 800. This looks like one of those Cubitron. I don't even know what grit that is. I guess it's no grit. 600. You get the idea. 1,000, $80. That's a little too fine, but I really like that purple. With that said, if anyone knows specifics on which glue or tape belt manufacturers use, or, any insight at all, though I am not suggesting industrial espionage. If you know anything about it, let me know down in the comments. It's kind of sharp. As far as the M12 belt file goes, for what I do, I'm digging it. A lot more convenient than to have to gas up the air compressor for this one. No awkward hoses to deal with. The usual fare for cordless tools, I guess. The air one, though, does have this nice, cork backing. Can you see that in there? I mean, it's worn out. There's some left. But it's got a cork piece that just makes the grinding not so harsh. Let's put it that way. The Milwaukee just has a steel platen, a piece of sheet metal. So hard backing on one side and nothing on the other side. That's just a support, but maybe you can see it this way. Hard backer on this side, little bit of give on this side, which is good when you need a softer touch and a little give. I don't know, bottoms of your feet maybe, or where you're looking for more of just a little belly to your grind instead of just a hard cut. That said, I may try sticking a piece of cork back there. Check out this cool feature though. If you're grinding, say, just one thing, use it as is, right out of the box. But if you're looking to save time, you can set this to grind two things. Or did you make a mistake? Take off too much material perhaps? Or you used it to buff your wife's car? Not a problem. Just put this thing into rewind. All in all, I'm happy with the purchase. I wish it was just a little bit faster maybe. But in the spirit of oversharing, I bought this and the 3/8 impact gun. This thing has really surprised me. It is freaking amazing how much power they're packing into these things these days. First thing I did when I got this was put a 1/2 bolt and a 5/8 bolt in the bench vise. It was sticking out maybe an inch, and I tried to snap them. Took the head right off the 1/2 bolt. Took a little more persuading on the 5/8, but it did that one too. Cut them clean in half. The only thing I don't like is this dumb mode selection that they have on here. Usually you just push a button, 1, 2, 3, 4, reverse, whatever. This one you have to put it in this weird middle position, the lockout position, which does not lock out the trigger. But now when I send it Morse code, I can change between the different modes. Which, I don't know, I guess someone at Milwaukee thought was clever, but it's more of a pain in the butt. I'm not as much of a wrencher as I used to be, but I really like this thing. And this replaced, anybody remember these things? 3/8 inch air, Husky. It's always treated me well. Next up though on the shopping list, Christmas maybe. I really got my eye on the Milwaukee die grinder. Reviews seem good. I'm worried it's not fast enough. I mean, like I said, I wish this thing was faster, but it's not the end of the world that it's not faster. I think for a die grinder, especially with the coarse carbide, I don't know, it feels like if that had weird speed fluctuations, I could be chipping a lot of carbide. If you've got one, let me know what you think. Anyway, I think that's it. A little bit of a roller coaster ride with the belts here today, but I appreciate the company. And as always,